Now we're going to look at the book Boris, also by Cynthia Rylant, of course. This is written as a lyric poem, and as you can see, it looks different than a regular novel would. But it is about another person and their connection with an animal, and I would like to read the first 2 chapters for you now. They were smart to put a storefront humane shelter on the street I walked. I was new in town. Everybody else was used to those cats in cages in the windows. They kept on walking, trained not to glance over, lest they lie awake at night thinking about that long-haired tabby, waiting, waiting, waiting. But I hadn't been trained. I tried not to look. I have never been able to go to a humane shelter, but now they had brought one to me. I'd buried my last cat 2 years before. I had only dogs now. Dogs that didn't get into howling, spitting fights in the middle of the night. Dogs that didn't spray or leave chunks of frothy hairball on the carpet exactly where I placed my feet in the morning. I had buried my last cat. I was a dog person now. But they'd put a storefront humane shelter on the street I walked every day, and I was new in town. I lasted 2 months. Then I went inside, swearing I'd get only one, and only a girl, and no more. Working hard to keep my heart together. Cages, cages, eyes. They can't be too sad. Cats sleep 80% of the time. They're all right. It could be worse. Don't look at that dog over there. The one storefront dog in the cage. You will break apart. Not made for shelters. Ashamed of it, but not made for shelters. At first I thought, I'll choose this one. This nervous one. I'll choose this one, this old battered one. I'll choose this one, this bright one. Cages, cages, eyes. And then the last cage. Last cage. There you were, Boris, with your gray sister. And you stood up and stretched and purred and promised you would be good if I took her too, because she had kept you alive all those days and days and days. 3 months in a cage, Boris, with your sister, living in the moment with only your memories of leaves and rooftops and warm brown mice. I promise, you said, and I believed you, and I took home 2 cats, one more than I wanted, and a boy at that. But you promised, and I knew. So in the first chapter, we can see that she doesn't really think she wants a new cat, but she's drawn to the pets that are in this humane society in cages waiting for adoption. And she has a heart that just wants all of these animals to be loved and to have a home. So when she goes in there, she has to fight her instincts to take all of them. But she finally does find a cat. Even though she was intending on going in there and just getting one girl cat, she just fell in love with Boris as soon as she saw him, and that was the one for her. And so she took him and his sister. Chapter 2. You spent the first week hiding under a down comforter in the farthest room at the back of my house upstairs. We'd step in softly to visit you, Boris, you and your sister, and slowly out you'd come with a stretch and a yawn. Not ready for freedom just yet. One gets used to a cage, whether he likes it or not. We held you both on our laps and spoke your names as we stroked your heads. Near week's end, we had a talk with the dogs. We told them there were 2 cats upstairs they didn't know about, who'd been listening to all the barking. We told them to be nice. Then one of us went in to sit with you, while the other let the dogs in, quietly. You were so fine, Boris, not a flinch. They wagged and sniffed and pressed closer, and just one little flick of the ear was all you gave away of your alarm. So fine. A week later, you and your sister were downstairs, fighting for lap space with the dachshund. And when you swatted that stubborn dog's nose one day, we knew you were home. And so chapter 2 talks about the process of integrating a cat into your new family. And you can see how just being in that house had such a huge impact on the cats themselves and on the family of the cats. You know, they had the dogs already, but they informed them, we're going to have a new little kitten or 2 new cats around. And they waited to introduce them until they were sure it would be okay. They took their time to let the cats get adjusted to their new environment first. But the whole time they were just falling in love with them, because that's what animals do. And I think that's what Cynthia Rylant is trying to tell us, is that animals just worm their way into your heart and they change you. They make you a different person, and there's nothing you can really do about it. It's going to happen.